Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another PlateUp tutorial. Now, in this tutorial, based on the description of the video, is how to automate soup. And I know that's one of these topics that people have said, well, can you automate soup? Can you automate this? Can you automate that? And the answer is yes. And you can automate soup. I'll start this video by saying this is going to be for meat soup and carrot soup, because they only require one extra ingredient, the carrot or the meat, to the broth. The broth is the same for both. And the hardest part of this is figuring out how to automate the broth. Well, knowing how the mechanics work is that if you have a combiner pointing into a sink that provides water, so either your starter sink or your basic sink, your standard sink, the other sinks will not work because they obviously do not provide water. And by having this point into this actually creates the action of putting water onto whatever or into whatever is here. Whether if it's flour, it'll turn it into a dough ball. If it's a pot, it'll turn it into a pot with water on it. And basically the way this works is, I'm just going to move a couple of these things out of the way that I'm going to show you in a second, is you place a pot in here, the combiner combines it, you put a pot with the onion in it, it combines it with water, it goes to the safety hob, or the grabber to the danger hob. This then makes the broth, and then you come up here, however you want to have these set up, it doesn't matter, whatever is convenient for you, something like this, right? You grab your carrot, you put it in, and you know what, let's just demonstrate this. Instead of talking about it, let's just show you in practice what this actually does. As you see, it does nothing. So you grab your pot, your onion, put it in the sink, okay? And we'll just do carrot soup because it's the soup you start with, because you have to have carrot soup in order to get any of the other soups. So, there you go. You put it in here. This will continue on, and you portion out your soup as you go like this. And the magic is what happens next. Because you have a smart grabber that is set to pull an empty pot of soup, like the empty broth, it'll cycle around, it'll put water in, you grab another carrot, and if you remember, the second cooking of the soup always takes less time because the broth is that much quicker. So I can just come down here, take out 3 portions, and Bob's your uncle. It'll do the same exact thing as it did before. It'll just I can't put this one anywhere though, unfortunately. It'll just keep cycling. Now, if you want to do meat soup, it's the same exact thing. It'll do the same exact thing. Now, you may say, okay, well that's fine and dandy, but that's not really automated, is it? Because you're only automating the broth. And the answer is yes. So the step up from that would be something like this. You have your carrot, because like I said, you start off with carrot soup. You have your carrot like this, you have your carrot bin, you have a combiner, and you do something like this. And what this basically does is it'll auto combine a carrot into the broth. Now you still have to remove it manually, but instead of showing you exactly how this works, because you understand what this does, is let's put in something a little bit better. So you have a portioner. And then you have a grabber. This could be a smart grabber or a regular grabber. I just have a smart grabber for the next part of the demonstration. And then you say you have a prep station, which we could just put it like this. You can see, I think you guys can see that on the screen okay. You also want to have this facing that, because portioners will pull off of a hob, off of a cooking device. Actually, let's just put it this way so you guys can see this a bit better. And well, this is just going to be for carrot soup. Now, watch the magic happen. Again, you're adding a couple more elements to this, but you're basically it's still quite easy. You grab your pot, your onion, you plop it in, and let's just see what happens when this runs through. I'll move out of the way so you don't see my head bobbing around. So it cooks the initial broth, which again takes a while to cook. It automatically puts the carrot in due to the combiner, the way the combiner's action works. It'll draw the soup right away, and then look what happens. It'll cycle right around. It'll refill the pot of broth. It'll cycle it back around, cook the broth, put a carrot in, and then we're basically, I'll pull one out of here so it'll keep cycling through. Same exact thing. And again, if this is a frozen prep, well, obviously you have soup ready to go in the morning. Could you use a freezer in this setup somewhere? And the answer is yes, but the way I would do it is I would freeze, Well, you could freeze the whole pot, really, and then you just stick the pot on this hob here. Well, you stick a pot anywhere, as long as you wouldn't want to put it on the smart grabber, because it would reset it. But otherwise, you just grab your pot from the freezer, you stick it in here. Now, is there a way to add a pot to this so it goes into a freezer? Yes, you just have to move this down a bunch, put a freezer in between this grabber and the hob, and then you could have a freezer in there. But I mean, is it worth that extra effort? I don't believe so. Now, that's to do carrot and or meat soup separately. But you may say, well, what if I have both soups? Well, you would have it set up similar to this. Now, the issue with this, in a sense, is that you have to pick and choose what to make here. And I'm going to move these down just so I have a bit more space. You understand that where they're coming from, but this would be the one with a bit more space. And you no longer can have this combination set up like this. You would have to get rid of this, and you would have to do this manually. But the concept is the same, and I will show you exactly what this does. So you go into here, you grab your pot, you grab your, and you can't see it's off camera, but until grabbing a pot, does the same thing over here. And say you want to do carrot soup first, okay? Fair enough. So you do the same thing as you normally do. And you cook your soup. Again, this just takes a bit of time, even though you're using a danger hob. It pulls out the soup, okay? And guess what you're going to do next? Say the next batch you want to do is going to be meat soup. Well, fills up the pot, comes around, cooks a broth, which goes super fast. Now it does this. And again, you could put a carrot here. Say, you could figure out what you're running out of. Now, guess what? Because you have a smart grabber with meat soup, it's pulling meat soup. The next one is going to go carrot soup. And you could really alternate this with a. I'll show you how you could alternate this a little bit. Is if you have, say, let's just put these down here just for argument, for demonstration purposes. Say you have a grabber here. Theoretically, at the start of the day, you could come down here like, well, this is practice mode, of course, but you'd start your day. You'd make your broth as you always would do. That doesn't change. You'd load a carrot in here and say you'd add a piece of meat here. And you say, well, what is that going to do? Well, it'll do exactly what I did before, except it's slightly more animated. If you're kind of having equal amounts meat and carrot, you'd put another carrot here. And then you could put another meat behind this one, just like this. Well, you can't. Well, when it cycles through, you can. Now, if you're going to do a system like this, I would recommend having enough space where six soups can go. The way that the meat soup is set up, you can, because you have 4 here, you have 5, you have 6. So you could have 3 full pots, or 3 full bowls. The way the carrot soup is set up over here, oops, well, I messed it up, I hit the wrong button. But the way the carrot soup is set up here, you'd only would have 4 plus 5, so that's not 6. So the way you would do that is you would just extend this. You'd extend this 1. Or again, the easier thing to do would just be to have 1 of each. Now again, you could set this up a different way. It doesn't matter how you want to set this up in terms of how the layout goes, because theoretically you could have this going like this. You could have the preps coming like this. You could go like that, and you could go something like this. Again, it all depends on your layout of your restaurant. This would be more of an L shape. You could tuck this whole area up into a corner, as long as you could access this grabber or access this hob. And if you're doing it 100% manually, well, you could just move all your bins like this. Your bins could be moved something like, you have a bin here, and then your other bin could be put right here. And if you want to make this quite compact, you could even have your onions here, and you could have your pots here. So that's a pretty, it's a 5 by 5 square where you have your soups, everything you need for your soups ready to go. Actually, this would have to go here, excuse me, because you have to be able to reach the hob to put the meat or the carrot in. But nonetheless, it's still a 5 by 5 square, which is actually pretty compact the way you think of it. So the only thing that's not automated with this is actually grabbing your pot and your onion, getting your first pot of broth going. And again, what you could do here, I'll show you one more little trick. if you're running this double soup thing like I have here, you could do 1 and you could do 2. And as soon as this is done, I mean, it's by the time the other broth cooks, you're not really going to be having problems. Again, you have messes here, so you have to be careful with messes. That this would work. You'll see how it works. It'll pull it out. This broth will be already made. And you come back here, boom, you have to wait for it to cook, obviously. So this is a way to have 2 broths, like, semi-made already. Is it necessarily faster than just having 1? I don't know. Because by the time this cycles around and fills up, portions are going to be portioned. Here, because this goes super quick, I guess there it would be quicker. Just by the nature of how it goes, because of how quick it is. Because let's see, will this make its way around before I can add the carrot in? Portion it out just like that, and the answer is slightly. I mean, you're talking 2-3 seconds max. But again, you could do it just like this. Now you can see what happens here. The bottleneck is you only going to have portions like this. So this is sitting here. You can load up another meat soup, but the problem with that is that you have to be able to serve a carrot soup, because what happens is this. You'll see exactly what happens. It sits here. You have to pull this off. As soon as that goes through, now your meat soup will continue on. Nonetheless, this is a quite automatic way to do this. Now, the next level above this would be to adding automatic pot and onion putting into the combiner. I find that a little bit excessive. I do have a layout of that, but it requires so much more materials that I would stick with this method here. And as I said in the beginning of the video, all you need is a sink. You need 3 regular grabbers, a smart grabber, a hob. This could be any hob, really. It doesn't have to be a danger hob, but a hob and your combiner. So that's 1, 2. This is free. This comes with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, and that's all you need to automate the broth part of the soup, which is not the hardest, but the most tedious part. You throw in a portioner, and you only have carrot soup. You just portion like crazy. You throw in a grabber with a prep station. You have soup nonstop. Because if you only have carrot soup, you could just have 3 pots going here. And then as soon as this one's done, this one's going to pop on here to make the broth. You throw a carrot in it. Boom, boom, boom. You're ready to go. Like I said, also, is if you just have carrot soup, this portion here wouldn't be here. You could set it up with a combiner, just like this, with your carrot going in here. So you're basically not touching. Once you do your initial setup, which would be like this, would be like that. Again, this stuff wouldn't be here, obviously. For demonstration purposes, we can just do it like this, just to show you how this would actually go if you're going to go a little bit extra like that. As you come down here, practice mode again, of course. And you come up here, you grab your pot, you got your onion. Boom. And you could do 3 pots. It doesn't matter how many you want to do. This system will not jam up. It will not back up. Unfortunately, you can't see those prep stations for some reason. I don't know. Oh, it's because I moved the way the screen works. But so I'm not actually going to. Well, we can show you how it goes. It's going to portion off into the prep stations just to have the video cropped. But nonetheless, the example is the same. This will pull off 10 portions. So let's watch this. It does the second portion. Now remember, we have 3 pots ready to go here. Once all 3 pots just have the broth, it's super quick. As soon as the portioner portions it, boom, the next one's on. Now after this one portions it, you'll see just how fast it goes. Because remember, this is still the initial broth. So theoretically, you could probably get away with just doing 2 pots, not having 3. Get that one done, boom. Next one's portioned right away. So you're basically 100% automated soup at this point. Once you do the initial setup phase, you're automating soup like crazy. So I'm going to bounce out of this now, and we're going to go back into our prep phase. Again, you can't see these because I had them set up for that generic setup for you guys. But the point in the concept is exactly the same. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, this is for meat soup and carrot soup only. If you want to have combined soups, you do that setup that I showed you in the middle of the video where you have 2 smart grabbers pulling out, and you could have a conveyor belt, but you don't have it pulling directly from a bin of anything. You manually put it on this. And again, you could have a couple in a row. You have meat, carrot, and just alternate them. But again, running up here when you're low, throwing a carrot onto this, it's super simple. And yeah, that's basically the way you would set up auto soup. My way of setting up auto soup. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been a fun video to make. Now, I did make a complete automation with the grabber and the onion and the pot, but it got to be so obscenely big. I don't know why you would ever want to do that when all you have to do is simply grab one pot and grab one onion, and then your run is your soup is completely automated. So I'm gonna admit that from this video. It's actually on this side over here. There's no point really to show that because it's a bit absurd, but it is possible. I'm still working on an auto tomato soup tutorial. It's a bit tricky because you have the cut tomato as well as the sauce all having to be combined into a pot on a hob with a grabber or with a portioner, so it's a bit tricky. But anyway, hopefully I come up with that a little bit later on. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me for automated soup. Some people say it could never be done. I said, you know what? It can be done, and the proof is right in front of your eyes. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. These videos are super fun to make. If there's any other automation type videos you want me to make, please leave it in the comments below. I will be having automation videos on pretty much every dish that's out there. I may do a soup, I may do a sides and starter, or I may do like a sides with onion rings and fries together. I may do mashed potatoes and broccoli video together, so there's not 50,000 videos out there. But anyway, thank you guys for the continued support, and I'll catch you in the next automation tutorial. Take care now.